Hello, ladies. Okay, so let's go through your PowerPoint. Sorry I could not stay to talk today, but hopefully I can address everything you need in this video. So first thing, what would you say? The visuals overall are really good. I might give you more feedback than you necessarily want. Unfortunately, aesthetics is really important to me, so some of what I'm going to tell you is more so because I think it will enhance your presentation versus giving you a good or higher, lower grade. So obviously with this, you've got a photo, you have to cite it. It's one of the big things. Luckily, you have a year and an author's name, which is going to make citing it take about 10-15 seconds. So we're just going to go slide by slide, and I'm going to give you my feedback. For this one, obviously your photo has been shifted off to the side. You'd want to fix that unless you're trying to have that line, but it doesn't match the other 3 slides that have the same photo concept. Again, you'd have to actually cite the photo. Overall thesis statement looks good. Introduction, what is heritage? I noticed when I was looking at this before making the video that you've got some pretty typical spelling mistakes. Artifacts, A-R-T-I-F-A-C-T-S. So you'll just want to make sure you fix that. Another issue that you're kind of having pretty consistent on this slide is it starts off as a paragraph, and then I feel like you try to do bullets, but I'm not sure what you're doing here. The way there should be like a colon up here, the 2 dots, this symbol, and then I would separate these out with something like an enter. For this aspect where you're doing the citation, you would want to bring it down because you want it to apply for the whole slide. And Wikipedia, okay, we talked about that in class. When you do in-text citations, no matter what the source is, you're going to have just the year. So it would look like that. You'd have your author's name and the year. You would be best off looking and seeing where Wikipedia took this information and got it from. Wikipedia is not a great source, so there's lots on it that's not really true. So that's one thing I would notice on that. When you go to this one, the first thing that kind of strikes me is we go from having this really nice large font, which is easy to read, to having really small font. There's no citation on this page, and I doubt this is coming from your own knowledge. The way things are worded, the concepts that are here, I'd assume this is coming from somewhere else. Now, you can't have bullets and dashes. Choose one. Try to see. Religion isn't capitalized. Make sure you're doing proper grammar. But overall, most things look good. Here you should have a colon because you're going into bullets that are about this. And then the other thing that's going to happen here you have a period. You need to choose if you're going to have periods on all of them or none of them, because you do have to make that distinction. So either get rid of that period or turn all of these into sentences. And then obviously you need the citation on the bottom. We already talked about that. Heritage cycle. You need to give us where this picture came from. If it came from this source, that's fine, but you need to put figure, this would be figure 1, 2, 3, 4, figure 5, the name of the figure, which you might have to create, and then in brackets you would do the author's name and the year. For this one, and I'm assuming this is where this is coming from, when you actually do in-text citations, you do the author's last name, comma, the year. You don't do the first name, which is something you were commonly doing. And then afterwards, especially when you're writing in the form of a sentence, you would have a period. Now, because of the way you're trying to write it here, you could do something like a colon because you're relating it to this aspect down here. When you go through this in your PowerPoint, you should explain the cycle to us. Don't read it, explain it. So whoever has a slide, be really familiar with it and understand the different concepts. This needs a citation. There's nothing to tell me what it is. I'm also looking for what year is this, which would be the year it was written. So even if you had the citation down here, the in-text for photo, what would this be called? There's photos and figures. So this would be your figure 1, or graph 1. And in that you would have what year it is, because I'm looking at this, well, is this year, or was it 5 years ago? Because that differs. Now, I love seeing stuff like this because it's so interesting to see nationality-wise where things lie. Especially since I come from another country, knowing that in the as far as Americans, you don't see a lot of U.S. stuff. You don't meet a lot of people from the U.S. because we are such a small portion of the population. So that's kind of cool. I like seeing that. Okay, you're explaining your community service. Okay, your community service should be after your content. So you're doing really good here. You jump to community service and then you jump back to content. I think you can move this towards the end. It looks really weird there. Especially if you've got underlinings, they're noticing that's spelled wrong. STRICT is strict. Conservatives doesn't have a purpose to be capitalized, so watch that. This image, I like it because I understand the meaning behind it. However, what I would do is I would come in and I would increase some of the transparency because you need to balance the color on the slides. So even right there, your white is popping off a lot better because it's not as bright. There's a lot of different ways you could affect the color. I think it could pop a little bit better than what you guys currently have it set as. It's hard. It's actually hard to read. Let's see, in the past, nowadays, languages. And you're saying instead of their mother languages, which is of course spelled wrong, Arabic is a language, right? It's a single. And you could say people are using different languages, i.e. English, and then your second one might be Hindi or Malayan, I think it is, that's spoken by people in Kerala, based off of the number of people that are here that speak Hindi, Urdu, and the Kerala language are probably the highest you see outside of Arabic. People neglect and did not hold the languages. Arabic may be extinct. And this is one of those interesting aspects, and you guys also might want to just reference the fact that Arabic is many, many things. So you're talking Emirati Arabic. However, Egyptian Arabic is different. You guys see this in in Arabic classes and Islamic classes, you'll struggle a little bit just because, it's not the Arabic that you know. It's a different form. So I'm guessing you guys are going to talk in general here. Now what's weird here is I'm not sure what you guys are going to talk about. And this slide for me is not as dynamic as your others. So I feel like even if this is just a holding phrase, maybe you need the picture of a traditional Emirati girl and a traditional Emirati boy or something like that. There's something missing that's not captivating. Now, when you go to this one, it's really interesting. I don't know if you have a typo here, so I'm not sure what gender is. I think you could mean gender, Gender. Gender is whether you identify as being feminine or masculine. And then you have sex, which is whether you were born feminine or masculine. And then you have tomboy, a girl who acts like a boy. And then gay, a boy who shows himself as a girl. The issue I have with that is that's not the definition of gay, though. That could be a definition of a different word. But gay isn't the right word, at least in English, to represent that. You could say, what would you call that person? Okay, I'll think about it and send in an email with the video. But gay isn't the right word here. Gay is a word for a boy who likes other boys, or a girl that likes other girls. So you just need to be careful with this word. Tomboy makes sense, right? But gay, it's not right. I have to look up the correct term. Let's see. Etiquettes have changed. This you could actually have citations for at least some of it. And I think these are things you definitely can kind of give notice to. And I wonder if these were things you learned from your community service or not, or just things you know from your everyday life. Let's see. I like the last one. Oh my God, it should have stayed. Why did you guys get rid of it? Second category. Again, this is, okay, so you've got a couple people making slides, and it kind of throws the person for a loop because they're not consistent. So you need to go through and make sure the slides all match as far as your style. Because again, you have this big gray slide, little words, and it's very blank. And honestly, it loses all of my attention. And what is second category? The people in this period, they're very, I think you mean rich, R-I-C-H, from outside, but they are cheap from inside. What does that really mean? There's same, should be some, S-O-M-E. Tourist shouldn't be capitalized. And then you have huge grammar. Unrespect the culture and tradition of country because they are citizens. Unrespecting the tradition, culture, and low. And low doesn't make sense. So if you're talking about non-locals disrespecting the culture because some locals aren't, I think that's more of your point. And are you talking about tourists or are you talking about non-local residents or both? Because a tourist versus a resident can be very different. Because the understanding of the cultures is different. And I think this is a great point, especially the second one. If the local community doesn't hold on to its values and traditions, and they don't show us why they're such value, how are we going to appreciate that if we don't have anyone educating us in a very welcoming, opening way? Hospitality etiquettes. Okay, format, ladies. Make one format. This is all caps. So that needs to change totally. Can't really see hospitality etiquette. One issue you're having is you don't have everything in your PowerPoint. So you were supposed to do your title slide, your introduction to the group. You were supposed to have an attention grabber. Then you were supposed to have an outline. And you have your thesis. Now, because you don't have an outline, I can't tell where we're going in your presentation, and honestly, your presentation looks a little everywhere. Like someone is just throwing it together. You don't have your APA reference list. Your conclusion should be 3 or 4 bullets. When you guys type like this, it's very hard for us to kind of see it on the screen. Whenever it comes up, it's just going to be like, and people are going to kind of ignore it because it's too much reading. Think about you. How much do you actually want to read on the slide? Now, I would say your presentation needs more research support. And Wikipedia does not count as research. So you need to get that in. You guys should easily have 5 or 6 resources. There is material out on there. I don't see your creative work. I'm trying to think of anything else. And I don't see your slide where you ask for question and answers. So you need to take this PowerPoint. You need to go through the slide guide that I gave you at the beginning of the semester. You need to see which slides are you missing. From there, you need to go into the slides. You need to make one format. Choose what you're going to do. One person needs to make that decision. Then you need to go through and you need to add in more research and less opinion. There is research on this. You need to add in your references, including that final reference slide. And that is where I would say, looking at this right now, that's where you need to start. So overall, you guys are moving towards a good direction. The issue is you didn't follow the slide guide. And because of that, you're a bit disorganized. So pull that out. That's step 1. You got to get that together. And keep going. You guys have a bit of work to do. It's 4 o'clock. You still got hours.